A little disclaimer here, but nothing nearly as serious as the others have been. This podcast has always been about the relationships I've built with my students, their high school experiences, and their origin stories. As High School Matters nears the end of this very first season, I think it's important to let you know that the format of this particular episode is somewhat different. I usually try to keep the focus of my podcast away from myself. However, this is not just an interview between a student and a teacher. It's more of a back and forth discussion that I think demonstrates how lucky I am to have built relationships that last long past high school. When I first started sharing these podcast conversations with my friends, they couldn't understand why these old students were willing to be so open and honest with me. Some of you may have been thinking the same thing. I think this discussion may provide some insight as to why that is. You will learn things about Josh, you will learn things about me, and you will learn things about how this entire podcast idea was born. I hope after hearing this disclaimer, you still want to listen on because it really was a fun and special conversation. And with that, as always, thanks for listening.
So you are obviously a highly intelligent, very charismatic and charming and enterprising person, right? And that's one of the reasons I connect with you so well. Just, in your words, why the fuck did you decide to become a teacher? High school matters. Come on, let's talk about it.
Welcome to High School Matters, the podcast dedicated to conversations that I have with my former high school students. My name is Randy Appel, and I've been teaching high school since the year 2000. And this podcast really started because during the COVID pandemic, I had all this free time. So I started to reflect. I started to reflect on my life as a parent, as a teacher, and I started to think, how great would it be if I could reconnect with the students that I lost touch with over the years and kind of catch up, talk about high school, talk about things in high school that actually mattered to them then, but also that still matter to them now. And honestly, this podcast took on a life of its own. My conversation today is with a former student of mine named Josh Kamali. Josh is a student I met during his junior year in high school in my AP chemistry class. He often came to me for advice, and we developed a special relationship that outlasted his time as a high school student and remains to this very day. Josh showed up for what was supposed to be an interview and decided to flip the script on me. Because of our friendship, I indulged him in his desire to shake things up. The result was fun and an interesting discussion that I hope everybody will enjoy as much as I did. I hope you enjoy this episode of High School Matters. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
You excited?
No.
Why not?
No, I'm kidding. This is great.
Are you excited though?
Yeah, very.
Very excited?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I enjoy talking to you, and,
Okay.
and now you just put the stipulation that I have to do it on a recording. So.
Just to set the scene, we are currently at my house in my basement.
Yeah.
Okay, surrounded by Pearl Jam posters. Yeah. And it's fitting because you're at my house within a week of your wedding. So congratulations,
Yeah,
you
thank you very
were
much.
first time I'm seeing you as a married man.
Yeah.
But the reason why it's fitting is because you also came to my house within a week of your engagement.
That's right.
Which is a very interesting story that's come up. People talk about like, how'd you start this podcast?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration? And you, Josh Kamali, really in many ways are the inspiration for this podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it.
So
I want to do things a little differently this time, if that's okay.
what do you mean?
I'm thinking, I mean, you have amazing conversations with people, and I've listened to your podcast even before you started publishing stuff. But I thought it might benefit listeners to hear a little bit about you. So I'm going to flip the script a little bit, because my story is extremely boring anyway. And
so was this your attempt to trick me into having a conversation by...
Any which way to get you... usually there's sushi, but you get me a sick cup of coffee, so...
Well, I want to set the scene a little bit if you're not going to do that and you're going to start asking me questions, and
Sure.
that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
But you live in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You got married in Miami.
Yeah.
And you're going on your honeymoon somewhere in 2 days,
Yeah.
and then you're going back to Philadelphia.
That's right.
So it's very rare to be able to get to sit down for a couple of hours, and now you're a married man, so you have to run it by someone.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for doing this, but I'll do whatever you want. I'm all good. I want to talk about you too, by the way.
And maybe to set the scene, it's funny because when I have to ask my wife, my now wife, to like go and hang out with one of my close friends, there's an explanation involved. I have to like talk to her and like, what are we doing? This, that. I just go, hey, I'm going to Randy's house, and she's like, oh, okay, cool.
Are you serious?
A couple hours, yeah.
So let's set the scene. You graduated high school when?
2009.
We've been in touch since you graduated high school. Often. Why?
During high school, whether it was during class or after school, during lunch, you'd have the benefit of being a mature person that also understands the intricacies of a Great Neck life and personalities and this and that. And I would always run these questions and life lessons by you, and you had great perspective on things. So I wanted to take advantage of that even after I graduated.
I want to start because I didn't know you before I had you. I had you junior year in AP Chem.
That's right. Well, I came to North only in 10th grade. So I was in another school system entirely until 10th grade. And there's, legends that form even in middle school. And I'm sure a bunch of my peers already knew who Randy Appel was even before they got to high school. And I would walk the halls and people would be laughing at your jokes, which I thought were completely ridiculous. I'm like, who's this clown? Whatever. And
before you had me?
Before I had you, I'm like, okay, whatever. Oh, I have this Appel guy. People claim he's funny. And I've never had like a funny teacher. Or
Is that right?
A teacher that you really feel develops a relationship with his students, his or her students. And so when I entered your class, I was really skeptical. And, there was an immediate kind of connection. And I'm like, wow, this is a teacher that I feel could finally get me and understand what I'm about and understand where my weaknesses are and where my strengths are and like how to wrangle me as like a crazy high school student.
But why did you feel that way?
I don't recall it because our relationship has evolved over the years. But
yeah.
If I'm recalling maybe one of the first memories, it's like you would make jokes like a kid would, but you had this levity to your teaching style, or you had this relationship with a bunch of kids that maybe you had in the past, siblings and whatnot.
Oh, you saw that.
I saw that, and it felt like you could form a relationship beyond the teacher and student kind of mold that you typically see. And when it came to teaching, you were very serious. You're a very strong teacher, one of my best teachers in terms of transmitting the information we needed.
You genuinely feel that way?
Absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And it was like early on for you too, and that
it was less than 10 years in.
Yeah. You didn't make class about getting the job done. And I'm not saying that you were trying to like understand your students and like really be a mentor or whatnot.
Right.
I mean, maybe you were in a way, but it felt, at least from the student's perspective, that you cared about us as people, as human beings. You wouldn't judge us, or like you weren't trying to like punch your time in and get out as soon as possible. Maybe we were, but it
didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
I fake it well. Okay, good.
But like I'm like, wow, like he breaks a lot of the molds that you would expect from a teacher, and I thought that was really special. So we ran with it. I would kind of do my class clown thing, and and I didn't get the same pushback and reaction from you. So it was, I think it kind of carved the path for us to kind of build the relationship further and become, I guess you can call it, close friends.
All right, good. Well, I appreciate that. It's interesting for me to know why we have this relationship, and I think it all starts and stems from that first moment you met me. You said that you were a student that came to school in 10th grade.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that was like as a new student?
Yeah. So I grew up going to North Shore Hebrew Academy, which is a private school in Great Neck. Probably 70 people per grade.
Oh, wow.
And I did that my whole life. And then for a confluence of reasons, I and my family decided to go to North.
Reasons you don't want to get into?
We could talk about it. I mean, there was, obviously, private school has its financial burden. And, I was a very misbehaved student for a while.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, very. I not even in an acute way. Like, I was like...
Oh, really?
I was a disruptive, like, class clown that no one thought was funny.
The kids did, or no?
Kids found it hilarious.
But the teachers hated you.
I mean, they loved watching me create chaos. But, like, the teachers obviously had an issue with it. right?
Shocking. Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
It didn't lead to me getting expelled or anything, but that coupled with my father was always a successful businessman, and this was leading up to 2008, where a lot of people were hurt. But my father was an entrepreneur. He was an immigrant from another country, and kind of started from the ground. Yeah, Iran.
Okay.
And he started from the ground up, and obviously he has to take an inordinate amount of risk to be able to kind of build his business and continue allowing it to grow. And a couple of streaks of bad luck, in my view, led to him having to close up shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that led to us having to move. Obviously, the private school tuition was a big luxury that we could no longer afford. So in that kind of timeline, I had to kind of transfer over to North. That was a big part of it.
Oh, so it was financial. Was that hard for you? Was it stressful at home?
No, it was easy. I mean.
No. But I mean, was it like stressful at home? Was it?
Look, I mean, I can't say that we ever wanted for much. I mean, living in Great Neck alone has a higher standard of living. But
did you have friends at North?
I had a couple of friends, that I kind of grew up with, but they were all struggling with their own identity and trying to figure out who they were and who their friends were. So by 10th grade, you're already sitting at the same tables, or in the case of Great Neck, walking to the restaurants. The parties, you already have like the invite lists that you would kind of...
So what was that like then, as this new guy?
So there was a couple options that I kind of figured laid out in front of me.
Okay.
You could walk in, and the easy one is to just jump right into like the misbehaved, or kind of like how would you put it? Look, the kids who smoked and drank a bunch, and that was an easy fit. Like, you can slide right in, and
because all you got to do is drink and smoke.
All you got to do is drink and smoke. You bring weed a couple times, and you're in. Like, nobody even. It's actually the least judgmental.
Wow,
group.
That's so interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and I, being a square, I kind of opted not to do that, and wanted to, wanted to find a more wholesome crew. Then there was kind of the Persians that you can just kind of click into because I have that mutual background. And then there's like the popular kids, the jocks, this, that, and I just didn't have a pure identity as a kid from North Shore.
Right.
To just kind of pick one and just jump right into.
So what happened? What'd you do?
I became friends with teachers, I guess.
Oh, that's it. All that nonsense about, you really connected with kids. Nothing to do with that. You just needed friends.
No, I mean, I ultimately was kind of just being a polite guy, kind of quiet, poking jokes in class here and there, trying out the class clown thing. Didn't work.
It really didn't work?
No,
because you were a funny guy. I do remember you were actually a funny guy.
My humor, so to speak, didn't really develop. It was just like a chaotic personality. Like, I just came into class and like tried to like poke fun at situations, but until your class, in fact, that like you wouldn't have it. Like you didn't accept just like BS humor. Like, it had to be clever, and so I had to like up my game.
Are you serious? So you
100%.
felt
That was
because
the
of
toughest part of preparing for your class.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Explain that. That's so unbelievable.
Okay, so you had a very pranky personality. Like, you wouldn't like run pranks, but you would kind of pester students in a way that I thought was freaking hilarious. Because again, as a teacher, you're like, I thought your job was just to like deliver this information to us and let us go home. But you would just like, during tests, I remember you would like click your pen, obviously in an annoying way, and then it took me a week or two. I'm like, oh, he's doing it on purpose to piss people off. To me, it was like you were bordering the line of being an inappropriate like person, let alone the teacher.
Got it.
And I thought that was really funny.
Okay.
Let me take control here for a second.
Sure.
I want to provide you kind of started to touch on this, but why did you decide to start a podcast?
Oh, okay. So that's an interesting question that I never really answered. Because on my intro, you hear like it was COVID and not a lot going on.
No, but really, why? You could do 100 different things.
Okay.
And you decided to talk to students and do it through the format of a podcast.
So I'll explain as much as I can, but I actually want you to be part of this explanation in a way because you are in many ways the inspiration.
Sure.
So I've always listened to podcasts. There's power in conversations. Mm-hmm. And, in light of something you mentioned, I hadn't really thought about this. There are moments that I think happen in my class that are extremely special. And I'm sure every teacher feels that way about their class. I don't think mine's any more special. I want to set that scene. Maybe you...
Sure, yeah. You're wrong. I mean...
Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong. But in my mind, every teacher's special in their own way.
Is special, yes.
Well, thank you. But I'm just saying every teacher's special in their own way.
In their own unique way, yeah.
In their own unique way. And there are moments that I've shared with students in class, out of class, like talking to you after school or whatever. And then... you'd never even crossed my mind when thinking about doing a podcast, to be honest, even though we had a great relationship, because you weren't famous.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
really.
That's right.
I've had, Andrew Wattman, who I'm going to interview soon.
Yeah.
Really, he just won a Grammy.
Yeah.
Producer of the year.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that's why I didn't want to do this.
You're not Andrew Wattman.
I'm straight edge, very boring. I don't know why I would be interested in hearing
Yeah,
this.
so you got that. I've had DJ Smolinski, the writer of Hunters. There's a lot of even infamous people. Sam Eshegoff, my first interviewee, was a kid who cheated on his SATs and became notorious. So I was like, you know what? There are very interesting students that I've had. And when I think of the fact that Andrew Wattman was in my class, let's just use him as an example, because I have a very unique, special relationship with him. He's now Andrew Watt. Even when I say, one of my old students just won a Grammy, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. A kid in your class won a Grammy. No, it's not. I don't feel that way.
It's a friend of yours.
It's a friend of mine that happened to have been a student of mine, just won a Grammy.
Yes.
So I always felt like there was something special there.
Yeah.
As a teacher, you question your profession. I'm sure you, listen, I know one of the places you're in currently at this very moment, you question your profession and you're making changes. But I question my profession. Teacher, I was a wealthy white Jewish kid growing up on Long Island. Most of the time, white Jewish wealthy kids, to be very honest, don't become teachers. Right. They want to make more money.
Sure.
So I at times question my choice. And then I remember, not that I remember, it's not like I have moments where I remember, but then I think there's pros and cons to being a teacher. And one of the greatest pros is the relationships that I've established that I never would have had if I wasn't a teacher.
Sure.
Okay? With students like you and students like Andrew.
The non-Grammy winning.
Just the two extremes, from low down Josh Kamali to way up Andrew Watt. And I always felt like because my relationship was special, I felt very proud of what I was doing. And that brings me to you coming to my house within a week of you getting engaged.
Well, let's add some context for a second.
Sure. A lot of context. Because that's freaking weird on its own.
So I think when you taught my class in 2009, how old were you?
I was around my early 30s.
Right. So that's not much of an age gap. I mean, now it's definitely not
right
an
now,
age gap,
of course.
But it's 10, 12 years ahead of students. And on top of that, you have a very young personality, and you look young. I mean, it was always the joke. We'd mess with you. Oh, you're balding, and this. We're messing back.
I want to just say, because as a teacher,
full head of hair. Don't worry.
No, I do not have a full head of hair. But what's interesting is I don't think there's a profession on Earth where while you're balding, as you start losing hair, you're constantly reminded about the fact that you're losing hair. I can't tell you from the moment I started teaching. And maybe this is a Great Neck thing. Maybe it's just it's a Great Neck thing. But I'd walk in the hallway and I'd hear, "Yo, Appel, your hair's getting thin." That was always a thing, and it's always why? It's not just that it's happening. I'm reminded all the time.
So imagine my corporate office, my colleagues. Hey, Kamali, what's going on with that hair?
By the way, you have a full head of hair with not an ounce of hair loss, but it's just interesting. So, sorry, I don't mean to go on a tangent. That's it. All right, so go on. So yeah, I was young. You were young. We connected in that sense, but okay, continue.
Right, and so it's funny, and I think this captures it. When I first got engaged, you mentioned that I was here a week later. I had mentioned having a relationship with my teacher to my girlfriend at the time, who's my now wife, and after we got engaged, literally the night of, we FaceTimed.
I want to just, because I think it's relevant how it all played out.
Yeah.
Because you would come to me multiple times since high school. One of the things you talked to me about is you actually wanted me to meet Alex before you.
That's right.
You actually said to me, which was so touching as a person, forgetting about your teacher, right, but as a friend, right? Yes. You said I don't want to get him engaged to Alex until you meet her.
I knew you were the one. Don't worry, Alex. Don't let him tell you this shit.
I could cut that out if you want. Whatever. Maybe you were just being nice and you were just like humoring me. Okay.
No. Your opinion was very important to me, and it wasn't for whether or not I decide to. No. I mean, it's important, but I did want your perspective because you helped me through a lot of life events, and particularly when it came to relationships. Even in high school, you would give me perspective that I never had. Again, coming from a Jewish, Persian kind of first generation.
Yeah, you were very conservative. Like, everything was very... I was very black and white.
You
were very black and white. Yeah. Okay, that's a good way to put it. That's fine. And do you understand, like, how extreme of a compliment that was? That you wanted me to meet your girlfriend before you proposed. And like I said, of course, if I said she's not great, you still would have...
No, I mean, what it would lead to probably is say, hey, like, it would genuinely, like, if you said something about her personality, I would have looked into it further.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it wouldn't have, like...
Yeah, I understand.
Dropped her off that night. Hey, listen.
No, but it meant a lot that you said that. So what ultimately wound up happening, this was right before quarantine, right before COVID hit. Right. We made a couple of times to meet. I had to cancel one time.
Right.
You had to cancel one time.
Right.
Then quarantine happened, so we could never meet.
Yes.
So then I think we spoke one time about the proposal on the phone.
I think it was like a week before.
Yeah. And then I get a text from you the day I did it. You texted me, I did it. And I remember I'm so happy for you. And I was like, let's, in my mind, I'm like, we'll talk in a couple of weeks because I didn't want to bother you, obviously.
Sure.
And then within 30 seconds of that text, you called me on FaceTime with Alex.
Yeah.
I get the oddness of the fact that, I was telling one of my friends that this happened, that you called me the night of your proposal, and his response was, she didn't call off the proposal when he called his old teacher to talk the night of the proposal.
No, that's what I'm trying to get at, is that initially she's like, oh, that's cute, you like stay in touch with the teacher. And then when I'm doing that, I'm like, hey, look alive, I'm calling my chem teacher. She obviously had like a reaction like, oh, but she like rolls with the punches, she's great like that.
Yeah.
But as soon as she heard us talking, like she realized, oh, this is not a teacher-student relationship. These guys are friends. So once she kind of saw that, I think a week later,
I said to you on that call, I want to just say it because I remember this more than you probably do because you had 100 people to speak to that night. I had one, and it was you. Okay. I said to you, we just redid our backyard. It's COVID. I know you probably can't. I really want to meet Alex.
Yeah.
I want you to. You never met Beth, really?
No.
Right? I want to meet. Anytime you want to come by, feel free. I'm more than happy to have you over.
Right.
And you said actually we're heading from Great Neck to the Hamptons tonight. This was a random night. When I get to the Hamptons, we'll figure out when we can meet.
Right.
And I said to you that night, if you're driving by, I happen to be having friends over tonight to play guitar and like a little jam session.
That's right.
If you want to stop by, I'd love to meet Alex. Come by, stop by. Yes. Again, never thought you'd come, but I offered it and I hoped you would.
Yeah.
And you showed up.
Yeah, I showed up again. Like, Alex is, like, kind of nervous and like, okay, what's going on? And, like, she never even seen a picture of you, right? But as soon as I got there, and Alex would say this, as soon as we got there, she saw how we interacted and we would joke and laugh. And, like, she saw you, obviously, like, a cool, young-looking guy, And I just meshed well with you and your friends. And I met Beth for the first time. And it was just like, she's like, oh, this is, like, awesome. It's like one of our friends.
Yeah, it felt that way, but it's nice to hear that. And then Beth doesn't always want to meet my old students, to be honest, and their fiancés.
I can imagine her reaction.
So just whatever. Right. And she's like, I love Alex. Yeah. She's amazing. And we actually wound up meeting. We made another night to meet, and you came over. We had sushi and drinks, and we had a great time. And okay, so that's a long-winded version of why I started a podcast.
Yes,
but that night, I remember we were sitting at dinner, we're eating sushi, and I said to Alex, I said, is it weird for you that you're at your fiance's teacher's house? Like, how weird is that from your perspective? To me, it's not weird. I'm sure to Josh, it's not weird. It's probably a little weird for Beth.
Yeah.
Is it weird for you?
Yeah.
She said, yeah. When I told my parents what we were doing tonight, they're like, you're going to Josh's high school teacher's house to have dinner? A week after you got engaged, in the middle of a quarantine.
Yes.
Okay? All of those factors are irrelevant.
Yeah, very.
And she said very nicely, but when I met you and I saw the way you interacted with Josh, I knew I was not at Josh's teacher's house.
Yeah,
she said something that expressed that sentiment.
And I remember during that dinner, I think it was Alex who brought it up, is like, you have probably 30, 60 students every year for the past 20 years. And that's a lot of people with interesting backgrounds and interesting futures that you get to kind of stay in touch with because you have these relationships.
It was that comment, actually. Right. It reinforced this feeling that I do have these quote-unquote friendships with these old students that I think it would be great to reconnect with because, I stay in touch with. So having a podcast conversation with you isn't something that I necessarily needed to do because we talk all the time.
Right.
But, let me contact this one, let me contact that one. Maybe we'll sit down and have a conversation and we'll kind of chat about high school. And, the podcast evolved into what it is now in terms of High School Matters. Yeah. Do you remember the original name of the podcast?
See Me After Class?
See Me After Class. Because after that night, by the way, I texted you and I want to run this by you. And I want to meet with old students. And you had 2 comments. The first one was, I wonder if the kids would want to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if anyone outside of you, them, and their friends would even care about what the conversation was.
Right.
And, at this very moment, I have 6,000 downloads. And that's not even, I don't know how impressive that is, honestly. Maybe it's impressive. It doesn't matter.
I did not believe in this.
Yeah, well.
I'm shocked.
No, but I didn't either.
Right.
To a degree. When you said that to me, I was like, yeah, I don't know if anybody would care. Yeah. And here we are, and by the time your episode, if it's good enough and gets released, then hopefully it'll be 15,000. But it's just it's you were a big part of that process, so I appreciate that on multiple levels.
Well, I want to touch into why did you text, apart from our friendship and everything, and the fact that you were inspired kind of during that dinner. Why did you reach out to me when you were kind of thinking about doing this?
So it's a good point because I actually didn't reach out to anyone else. Uh-huh. You are, and we could kind of talk about where you are now because you've always been entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
You're also a very smart guy, a very thoughtful guy. That's kind of how our relationship kind of changed from student to friend because I get to talk to you like I'm talking to a friend. It doesn't even matter.
Exactly.
So I value your opinion in the same way you value mine with certain things. I valued yours, and that does lead me to where you are right now in your life. And I don't know if you remember, we went to a sushi restaurant in Manhattan. Yeah. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And we had it was one of the most odd conversations I've ever had with a student. You were talking about changing jobs,
right? And
you were asking me my advice, right. And you told me how much money you made. I don't know. What was that like for you talking about that with a teacher, which you know how much money I make? Like you know, there's no. I wasn't even close to the amount that you even said at the time.
So just to give a little context, I grew up in Great Neck, had that whole transition, and then went off to college and had this drive to kind of work in some industry that would be very lucrative. And thankfully, I was very fortunate to have stumbled into a career that the society valued very much and lined up with my skill set pretty well. So after graduating, I went into the finance industry where I would be able to observe and analyze businesses. And that's part of the reason why I, kind of captured my entrepreneurial spirit and my interest in business. And after 2 years, that's when these careers really start to accelerate. And I was excited to talk about this with my friend. And obviously, I had a bunch of questions beyond just, whether I should do it or not. I want to talk about your experience with living in this kind of society, this part of the world, and what your relationship as an adult, right, a mature person, was with money and family and how that kind of plays into a lot of the decisions you're making.
Right.
So I was telling you about the difficulties that come with this career. I mean, it's very demanding.
You worked a lot of hours.
I worked a lot of hours.
I wasn't envious of the hours. Just the amount of money you were making for working those hours.
Right, there were no summer vacations. And I like to think about these things, even though I have the decision pretty set in my head. Even like with Alex, I want to get your perspective to just kind of mold it into my thought process.
Okay.
And so I was explaining how this is going to set me on a path where the next 10, 20 years, I'm going to have to subscribe to becoming a workaholic in many ways. And part of that conversation, I didn't just kind of like brag out.
No, I know you weren't bragging, of course.
You had to have the context of like, I'm selling my soul. How much does it cost?
Yeah, no, because you
right?
worked crazy hours. Yeah.
Right. So, as part of that conversation, I told you, and it was kind of awkward, right? Because
was it awkward for you?
Yeah, because it's awkward for me to talk. I don't tell anyone. Right. Even my parents, I kind of withhold that information, and to tell it to a friend, not let alone that, but someone who taught me, a couple of years earlier, and I'll be telling them this number that I knew was going to be kind of outrageous for any person to be making, and then
especially someone that young too.
Yes, exactly.
You're a young guy.
It was a lot, and it was part of the conversation of whether I should pursue this path, because obviously it comes with a different kind of flavor of life, if you will.
Right.
So I wanted to get your perspective on all that.
It was very complex hearing a former student of mine talk to me about a changing career, but yet tell me the salaries and give me all these nuanced details of his life as a teacher who's making a set amount of money every year, who, how do you define success? If it's money, obviously I'm not successful. If it's the connections I make with students, and I'm of course successful. Right. If it's having family, I'm very successful, whatever. Yeah. But you said something to me that I've thought about a lot since you said it. I don't know if you remember, but you were telling me I would be very good in your job. Yeah. I don't know if you remember saying that.
Of course. Yeah, so what I said was, it's interesting that you decided to pursue this, by the way, very noble and honorable career, and like you help shape youth, and it's amazing, very selfless, I would say.
Do you think of me as a selfless guy?
It's funny because you're a good guy, but you are. I don't think you're doing this career out of philanthropic reasons.
No, I'm not.
So I do a lot of interviewing for my company and stuff, and like you would be a great candidate. Like the way your mind works, I think, would be once you learn the basics and the fundamentals of that business, right. I think you would be incredibly successful there. And you mentioned that your siblings, I think, are in that industry and stuff like that. So it just goes to show you. So I think you have the curiosity, your ability to understand abstract concepts, your affability, and you're able to charm people. I think are very important ingredients to be successful in not only that, but many other fields. So I was always curious why you decided to pursue that path of teaching.
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
And I wish I had a better answer. I wish it was like, I just want to help the kids. I wish that was the answer.
I know it's not that.
It actually, so many things had to happen in my life to get me to the point where I'm going to be a teacher. But I've always felt in my whole life, I always said to myself, if I won the lottery, or if I was very successful, you remember I said this to you? I would become a teacher once money wasn't an issue.
Right.
Here I am, money is definitely an issue, and I'm still a teacher.
Right.
So the way it all played out, I'm not going to go into the boring details of it, but it actually, in many ways, comes back to struggle and what you talked about success in high school. I went through high school very privileged, almost negatively privileged, and I'll tell you why. And college. My dad had a family business, and it was always presented to me like, this is what's going to happen after high school and college. Go to Michigan, but like, pursue, like, if you want to be a doctor, that's great. I'll support you. If you want to be a psychologist, because I always love psychology, I'll support you. But it's almost like when you have a choice between struggle or don't struggle, you choose don't struggle.
Of course.
Or at least I did.
Sure.
So I said, I'll go into business. At one point I was pre-med or whatever. And I wound up deciding to go into my dad's family business. And he worked in the garment center. So like, it was very successful at one point. And I don't know if you know anything about the garment center or the garment district. Oh, your dad? Oh, yeah, it's a perfect example. Yeah. At some point, it's a terrible place to be.
Yes.
So when I went into the business, long story short, my dad realized that this was not the future of the world.
Oh, you actually tried it out.
I worked there for a little bit. I didn't love it, to be honest. I love working with my dad. I got close with my dad in a way I wasn't. And I like the idea of a family business because, like, it's family, right. But my dad wound up realizing, seeing the writing on the wall of the garment center and coming to me and telling me, I'm going to sell the business.
Oh, wow.
While I was in it. And I'm like, I remember the conversation to this day. My heart dropped. I'm like, wow, what do I do? And it's almost like I always wanted to be a teacher. Like it goes back to my biology class in 10th grade. It's when I first learned that I was a good teacher. I was helping these like kids in my class. By the way, I was getting tutored. Okay, so it's interesting, like privilege again. Right. I was getting tutored in biology by this tutor, and then I was using my skills then to help these kids that weren't getting tutored, and they couldn't believe how good of an explainer I was. Then they started doing well, and it was just like a cycle. It's like, wow, I feel good about helping these kids, and I knew I was good at it. Like we talked about, I happened to be good at explaining concepts. Then I wound up doing well in chem. Had a great chem teacher, still tutored, but okay. And then I always liked the idea of teaching, and I wound up at that moment. My dad said you could do whatever you want, but like at that point, like it was too late to be pre-med. I mean, I guess I could have, but who wants to start their life at that point? Right. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try being a teacher. I'm going to try it. Okay. Lucky my dad was able to, he paid for grad school. Like, yeah, luckily I, experiment. And I wound up, the rest is history, right? Like I went to the Elizabeth Irwin High School, had a great, life as a teacher for 1 year in a private school, making very little money. Got this job at Great Neck, killed the interview, met Bernie Kaplan, who, the principal, and I fell in love with him and the school. And when he said, you have the job, I was like, I'm never leaving as long as I can. And here I am 20 years later talking to, the benefits of being that teacher. Of course, like I said, these stories. But yeah, it's not because I was like, I just want to help people. I knew I was good at it, and I knew it made me feel good to do it. And that's why I'm a teacher. Right. Which is actually the opposite of selflessness.
No, it's a very simplistic word, selfish. But you did pursue it because of the degree of self-actualization that it even in 10th grade you were saying that it made you feel good about yourself and that you were a valuable member of the world.
Yeah.
That
that's a good point.
Right. And so actually we had this conversation early on when you decided to pursue a podcast. I asked you, right, if I told you that this podcast is going to be an insane success and you made hundreds of millions of dollars and became the next Joe Rogan or whatever, how would you react? Would you pursue it any harder or less, whatever? And then I asked you the opposite of that question. I said, if literally 8 people listen to this in 2 years, if I told you that only 8 people were going to listen to this, would you still pursue it? And you had the same answer.
Yeah, no, nobody likes every day of any job they have. Yeah. I don't like waking up early. I don't like having a schedule. But I go to school every day. Like, I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I love my interactions with kids. And like I say all the time, some kids like me. Most do. Some kids hate me. Few do, right? No, they do. I mean, I'm not. It's like life. You can't please everyone. Yeah. But I love teaching. Same thing with the podcast. I love the conversations I have with these kids. Yeah. I love this conversation. There's so many things I love, and it's like, it's also. I also want to say, like, it's almost in some ways sounds pathetic that I'm a teacher. Being with old students. Right. No, there's something pitiful in a way. Like I can see that being the case. But I feel like, I don't know why I feel like I have to say this, but like I have a wife, I have 3 kids, we have a great family, we have an amazing group of friends. Like I feel privileged in almost every aspect of my life.
No, and I should add, because you have a awesome wife who's like great in so many ways and beautiful kids, and it's not like you're lacking.
Wife? Wait, what do you mean? Beautiful kids, but not a beautiful. Okay, I got it now.
But it's not like there's something lacking. I mean, most people in the world would envy you, right?
Well, I don't know. Yes. I can't step out and look like that. But I just this connection to students in this podcast is just an enhancement to an. Listen, there are things I wish I had that I don't have. But like, yes, I feel very privileged in life being in this situation. And this just adds to that life. I don't know.
You heard it here. Please like and subscribe. Teaching isn't really just about, your skill isn't necessarily just transferring information, where it's a big part of it, obviously. But you mentioned that over years you became a better teacher. Now, you don't mean that in being able to teach material better.
No.
But how can you explain
that? Yeah, the more experience you have, and then, some teachers get stale, and that's not a good thing. Right. That experience is not good. The reason why I'm a better teacher year after year is because the more you teach something, the more you understand what kids are confused by. So it's really just my ability to deliver instruction has not changed in 20 years. I still could, it's still the same.
Right.
But my analysis of what is necessary to teach has changed, and that's evolved.
Right.
So, I mean, that's all,
Sensitivity to people's...
Yeah, and also, one of the reasons I think personally I am a good... You said, you made the compliment earlier that I'm a good transmitter of information.
Yes.
Okay? The reason I think I'm good at it is not because I'm an expert. It's actually the exact opposite. I am not a scientist.
Right.
Even by nature. I'm not, I like to think and analyze things, but I don't really understand the mechanics of science. I just know my material really well.
Right.
And I remember what confused me.
Right.
So that's why I think I'm able... The reason you think I'm a good transmitter of information is because, like I just kind of explained, like the more you learn, the more you understand. I know what confused me, and I still remember what confused me. So I take what confused me and what I see also over the years confuses kids, and that's how I teach. I use all that knowledge to explain things in different ways.
Right. So I want to pull on the string of you being an educator for 20 years, and I think it serves almost as a time series experiment where you observe kind of different personalities and generations over the years, and you have this unique perspective or lens that other people might not have to give a lot of insight to everyday folks. Myself, that's part of why I always like to ask you about it.
Okay.
So, you had all sorts of people. You generally teach smarter classes. So one of the things I always wondered was, can you spot out who's going to be like a success and who's going to be, even more interestingly, a failure?
I think so. I actually, I do believe that...
that high school matters.
No, actually, interestingly enough, I've had conversations. I would joke with kids, like, kids couldn't get above a certain score in my class, but I also would say to those kids, and it was a recent conversation actually, I never worried about those kids sometimes.
Right.
So there is something I see as an educator, this unteachable life skill. Who cares what you learn in chemistry? Right? Like, I always say, like, you don't remember the things you learned in chemistry as a student, but you also, it's even like learning chemistry is not relevant. What's relevant is your ability to reason about the chemistry. Like that's like more relevant. But then it's like, I've had some kids in my class that like cannot grasp chemistry, but then I'll see them on like stage and they're the most talented singers ever. And it's like, why are they taking chemistry?
Right.
So the students in my class that I think are the most successful are not the kids that get the highest grades. I've had the valedictorians in my class, and I've had, all the way down, because I've taught all levels of schools, some of the weakest probably students in the whole school. Right. But it's not like the valedictorians are going to be successful and the weakest students are not.
It's almost detrimental to do well in class.
No. Well, because I've had some valedictorians that I know will be successful too. School is so much more than grades, and yet, of course, you're defined by your grades in high school. And I think that maybe it's getting better with colleges, and kids feel they now know they have to like finagle the system. Like you need to paint a picture of who are you as a student. You're not just this kid that gets A's in chemistry. Right. You're this kid that gets A's in chemistry, and therefore does research, and therefore works over the summer at a lab, and therefore wants to be a doctor. So the picture of you to the colleges is, I am this science student.
Right. So what I'm hearing is like it's almost like a game. Right, it's almost like
well, life's a game.
Life's a game.
Yeah,
and you could see who are able to navigate it successfully, and who is able to just play by the specific rules of that game and succeed. So you're able to differentiate between those.
Of course,
right?
Yeah, because there are people that aren't that bright but can play the game, the school game even, and do well in school.
Right.
And then there are kids that are like, just they fully understand the chemistry and don't have to play the game. And then they do well in chemistry, and it's almost like, well, it depends on what career they're going to choose. Right. If they're going to choose to be like a scientist or sit in a room and you're going to analyze data, then yeah, you could be that kid that doesn't play the game. Right. But like, if you're that kid that's like, that you're not that bright in terms of like grasping the chemistry, but like know how to do well in chemistry, that kid's going to be successful in your profession,
in various games that follow. Right?
Yeah, so I think it's, yes, you could see who's going to be successful or not, but I think there's different levels of success, and depending on who you are in high school, actually, that will determine what area of life you become successful in.
Right. So here's the moment I've been waiting for.
Okay.
Did you think I was going to be a success or a failure?
Oh no, I always knew you were going to be successful.
Yeah.
Because you were very smart, you were very personable and charismatic, but you always had this degree of like you get people.
Actually makes me feel good that you say that, because my biggest failure in life, to this day, I know, is that I didn't take my grades so seriously. I actually I had that perspective of like, school is an opportunity for me to just experiment. And we've kind of touched on the fact that I was using it as an opportunity to explore the world and become more worldly and understand dynamics of people a lot better. So that kind of influenced my way of studying. And when I would study for my chem tests with you, I would flip through chapters and kind of look online and like, oh wow, electrons, there's 2 in the first orbit and then the 8 in the, and like that fact was interesting to me. But the process of learning more and asking myself, how does that influence other parts of the world and so on and so forth, that was interesting to me. And I think that made me a more thoughtful, effective human being. But it came at the cost of maybe not getting the highest grade in the class, because instead of studying straight for exactly the material you'd be testing on, I was off goofing around, so to speak. Now, I think it made me into a more thoughtful and receptive learner, but I didn't go maybe to the school of my dreams, and that had repercussions throughout my life. I mean,
but now you're in Wharton Business School. No, really. I mean, right?
So that's part of that, is actually like figuring out the game a little late. And
you think that played into the fact that you were so you had to play multiple games because you were a 10th grader coming into a school without any friends, without a clique. So you had to navigate that game, then the game of this I'm not wealthy anymore, and like all these people around me are wealthy, so that's another game you had to navigate. Yes. In addition to the fact that you had to navigate this education game.
Yes.
So sometimes maybe the privilege that we talked about is the ability to only navigate this high school game of grades.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are dealing with all these games, so to speak. And I'm using games in quotes, but you understand obviously. Sure. The game of schooling for you didn't get learned until much later in life. And here you are at Wharton Business School.
Yes.
At the #1 school when you learned that game. When you had the luxury of focusing on that game.
Right. And even in high school, I start to realize this. And in college, you see this a lot. And people are very well versed by the time they arrive in college, how to play it. And you see people, like my peers, would be taking ridiculous courses that are super easy, but then they would say things like, it's an easy A. And that was a wild concept to me. I'm like, why are you paying so much money to like 4 years to educate yourself as a person? Why are you wasting any time on that kind of stuff? But then you see that, there's a resume and there's an institution that you have to kind of adhere to. And, I started to play it a little myself and still trying to play the balance of like, okay, it'll help me with this next few steps, but if I wanted to become a more evolved individual over time, I gotta continue experimenting and failing. And I kind of held on to that mantra throughout my life. Part of my experience transitioning to North was I knew nothing. And you said I was black and white.
Yeah.
And it's because I grew up in a very simplistic view of the world. Like when I first arrived to North, one of the first questions I faced, and I almost say this facetiously, but I saw a Jewish kid eat a bacon sandwich. And I was like waiting for the lightning to strike. I mean, like, jokes aside, I was like, that was really shocking to me. And not because I was like afraid or whatever, but I was like, wow, so I consider this person to be a good person and there's nothing really wrong with him. And it's a diet choice. And then, so like, after thinking about that, I realized that, hey, there's a different approach to life. And that was like a very simple example, but that evolved to kind of questioning, hey, should girls go away to college and be away from their parents and their cultures for an extended period of time, all the way to trying to explore like, hey, is it okay to explore other professions other than, trying to make a ton of money, and maybe there's something else that life has laid out for you. So I'm kind of bombarded with a lot of these questions, and a lot of it was obviously influenced by my religiosity and having that perspective.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Religiosity?
We can look it up after.
I believe you. I mean, you're smarter than me, so.
But yeah, a lot of it was influenced by that and like exploring parts of life that I never was exposed to. So to this day, I have a saying that everything's weird, so nothing is. Right? So, like, I grew up in following a lot of things that people find absurd. A lot of things I probably talked about you when I was young.
Yeah.
About
I found totally absurd.
But now I look at normal things like having, a house with a picket fence and the mortgage. I find to be absurd in a lot of ways for other parts of the world. And, it's helped shape me be, I think, a more understanding person and, like, kind of roll with it.
And I also, because you were a very religious guy at the time, I actually invited you. It was a last minute invite, but I invited you to my daughter's bat mitzvah, and you were actually, I've shaped your life, you said, but in some ways you shaped mine in a way, and it's nice that you brought religion into my life in a way that it wasn't. Honestly,
wow.
I always respected your view on religion, and it's not the reason my daughter got bat mitzvahed, but it had some kind of influence in my mindset, to be honest.
I never knew that. That's, wow.
For real.
I was always kind of, not embarrassed, but kind of wasn't so open about my level of religiosity. And it's interesting that you found it to be influential in a way. Why do you say that?
Well, it's probably interesting for you because I'm not a religious person.
Right.
I don't believe in the concept of religion even.
Wow.
I believe in the tradition of religion. With Hebrew school, for example, she didn't have to go to Hebrew school. If she wanted to go to Hebrew school, I sent her.
Right.
When she didn't want to go, I took her out.
Right.
Like, I always felt like religion should not be something that you force on someone. And the other thing is that really bugs me is it's not something that should be paid for. Like, religion should be the most sacred thing if you believe in it.
And my grandfather was the same way.
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's the thing that bothered me the most about religion was that I had to pay for Hebrew school. And of course, I get you have to pay for a teacher. I understand it. But like,
it should be a profitable institution.
It should not be a profitable institution.
I agree with that.
So I was very against that part of it. But the thing that happened, I'll tell you very honestly, that when my wife wanted my daughter to have a bat mitzvah, I was like, why should I be the first person in my lineage to stop a tradition that's been going on for generations?
Right.
So I felt like that it was important to me to keep that tradition. So I had the bat mitzvah, and that's when I reached out to you. I'm like, listen, we've had conversations back and forth, and even though you're probably shocked that I'm even having a bat mitzvah, I would love for you to come if you can. No pressure, and it's here. Like, I'm not even going to send you an invitation. Just come if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And sure enough, Josh Kamali, 70 pounds heavier than you are right now, pops into my daughter's bat mitzvah, and
it's coming back. The bat mitzvah is a reason to throw a party that you still remember probably very, fondly.
Even like the horror
yes.
and the things that I laughed at as a non-observant Jew. My daughter even reading her Torah portion.
Yeah.
If you told me at any point in my life I would be emotional when my daughter was reading the Torah,
really,
I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
But yet the emotion was the connection by the fact that I did this at 13, she did this at 13, her kids will do this at 13. My parents did this at 13.
Yeah.
Their parents did this at 13. That's what
if the rule was if you knew that your great grandparent read fucking passages from Moby Dick, and your daughter got to do the same thing, you probably would feel
exactly
similar.
Right. And that's when I realized that that's not being genuine to why I wanted no religion, and that's why I did it.
Yeah.
So.
And then there's a lot of rules that don't make sense to me still, but eventually, as you become an adult, like the laws around marriage and diet restrictions and stuff, I start to realize, like, hey, this might be bigger and smarter than I am as a person, so why not just follow along with that? And it might benefit my life in certain ways, and again, in some spiritual, cosmic way, I don't know, may never know, but I like the aspect of having some rule I don't understand that restricts me, and it makes me feel like I'm part of something bigger, and I'm participating and helping kind of perpetuate that further.
And if you need that in your life, no, I'm kidding. I get it. I'm kidding.
Yeah, even if it's as small as not eating a bacon sandwich.
Yeah, and that brings you back to the time you got to Great Neck North and saw one of your friends eating a bacon sandwich, and it made you think. And now you can come back and reflect on what it means that you don't eat a bacon sandwich, and you still to this day won't eat a bacon sandwich, and you don't fault the kid for not eating a bacon sandwich. You just, that's become a part of your life. And even though, to me, that's the most illogical thing on earth because bacon is so delicious.
It's my favorite food. I've never tried it.
But I get that. And it's profound, and I get it. And I'm glad you have that. And as someone who wasn't like that, but then felt that way around his daughter's bar mitzvah, and maybe there are things bigger that even I can get involved in that I don't.
Everything's weird, so nothing's weird.
That's the Josh Kamali. Wow, that's the motto. I like it.
Motto.
So,
all right, well,
this is great. Do you enjoy this conversation?
Fantastic.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
I mean, is your wife going to be upset that it's been 3 hours and were you supposed to pick her up, or?
My phone has been blown up.
Is that right?
Several times over. Yeah.
But yet you're with Randy, so it's all good. That's the.
Hopefully she'll hear this and think, oh, it was all worth it.
That's it. Or
probably not.
Maybe not. Who knows? I had a great time either way. It's all good. I'm glad you did.
Fantastic.
Thanks for coming. Enjoy your honeymoon, and I'll see you in a couple of years. Josh Kamali, what a guy. I want to thank my guest, or my interviewer, my former student, and my friend, Josh Kamali, for flipping the script and forcing me to do something that I don't like to normally do. If you enjoyed this conversation, please rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, and tell all of your friends to rate and review it too. Every positive review helps new listeners find the show, so spread the word and subscribe. I want to see those 5 stars. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, send me a DM at hsmatterspod, or you can send me an email the old-fashioned way at hsmatterspod@gmail.com. Also, follow us on social media at the handle hsmatterspod for weekly updates on the podcast, for pictures of me and guests, for pictures of guests from high school, and any other information about the show. High School Matters was created, produced, and edited by yours truly, your host, Randy Appel. Consulting producers are John Fuss and David Friedman. Sound consultant is Peter Lennox. Our music is written and performed by me and is produced by Lee Tepper. High School Matters is, and always has been, a Belston production. 88766 signing off. I hope everyone learned something and enjoyed. Interestingly enough, we talked about how this is the first recorded conversation we had.
Right.
We wound up, you told me to get this thing where you could record phone call conversations, and I got it, and we had a mock podcast conversation that was totally just for fun, when before we even knew what this was about, and it was such a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was casual. I mean, I forgot that we were recording. It was over the phone.
Yeah. And the sound quality was horrendous. And it couldn't ever release it because it's so bad, although maybe a B-side one day, but the Josh Kamali B-side. Yeah,
your listeners probably don't know what that is.
But anyway, that's another part of the inspiration, because the conversation flowed so well. Not that I was surprised, but then it's like, all right, if I could do this with Josh, I might be able to do this with other people.
Sure, yeah.
And here we are.